All right, hello and welcome everybody back to another stream. I'm your CFI. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be flying the Cessna 172 out of my old home airport. This is Charlie November Charlie 3 Brampton Airport. I used to instruct here as well. So I'll be kind of treating this stream as like a kind of like I'm your instructor and you're on your kind of your first lesson, which would be attitudes and movements. So I'll kind of treat it like that in a way. I'll probably go further than attitudes and movements as it's a stream. We'll keep going. I'll probably go into straight and level, which is the next one. Then we'll do climbs, descents, we'll do turns, we'll do all that kind of stuff. And if you guys don't fly GA often enough, hopefully this will be a reason to get into it. And hopefully I gave you the tools to either enhance your flying skills on GA and in the airline as well, because all of it transfers over, or a lot of it does anyways. And yeah, hopefully give some reason to fly GA, as it is kind of fun to do as well. We're going to be off VATSIM for this one, just because I'm going to be uncontrolled anyways in this airspace, so there's not really a point. But if you guys all want to fly along and you want to do VATSIM, then I guess I could go on VATSIM if you guys don't want to fly with me. So yeah, I'll talk about some sponsors we have in our chat now as well. Some of the newer ones, if you haven't been around, are Contrail and ProDesk Sim. If you guys don't know who Contrail is, it's kind of like Steam for Microsoft Flight Sim. They have all the different add-ons you can buy. You can buy the CRJ, you can buy the 727, you can buy sceneries. So if you want to buy anything from the Contrail shop and want to save some money, you can use my discount code down below in the description. As well as I'm using the ProDesk Sim CRJ, well, not today, I guess, I'm using the 172, but I have the ProDesk Sim CRJ throttles that I purchased with my own money, and if you want to have a discount code to any of the ProDesk Sim Honeycomb Bravo throttles that they make, Airbus 320, I think they have a 777, 37, if you want any of those, feel free to use my discount code down below as well. Looking at the chat, we got Skymaster. He wants to do some unusual attitudes. Yeah, we can for sure do that. And we're running two streams today. We have a vertical stream and a horizontal stream. So if you guys don't mind pressing like in the horizontal stream, and in the vertical stream, if you double tap your screen, you will like the. I'm trying to get rid of your navigograph thing at the top, but if you double tap your screen in the horizontal stream, you will get the like button pressed. That's kind of how you do it there. There we go. Just fix the navigograph a little bit for you at the bottom there. Maybe. There we go. So I tried to align the vertical stream a bit more so you guys can see what I see. But yeah, so first things first, walking up to the airplane, you would have checked the your journey log, which is and obviously you have all the paperwork with you, but the journey log is kind of the life history of the airplane, and there's multiple books that get created, but in essence, if anything's been broken, or if fuels, or if oil's been added, or whatever, you'd look in that book, and you can refer to see how the life of the airplane's doing, and to make sure that all the necessary tests have been completed, and that there's still enough time on the engine to actually legally fly it. We're going to say all that's done. I should mention this obviously does not replace real-world flight training, so you know, if you have an instructor, listen to your instructor. I haven't actually flown a 172 in like 2 years, and I haven't instructed in basically that amount of time as well. So yeah. Anyways, then you walk up to the plane, and you know, we could do this in Microsoft 2024 now, where you can kind of walk up to it, and I think if you open the door, you automatically get in. Which I don't know if I can even open the door, but you'd step inside. And you would do your your cockpit preparation, which I don't have the checklist on me, but I'm just going to do everything from memory. Don't do that. Obviously, do your checklist, but basically, you're going to just verify that everything is kind of the way you want to see it. So the key, the rear wheel would be not even in the ignition, but it's all the way to the off. The battery or the master is off. All the lights and everything's off. Avionics are off. The parking brake is pulled. If it had tie downs in. The parking brake actually shouldn't be on if the tie downs are in, but there's no tie downs, so the parking brake on is okay. Mixture's full idle cutoff, and the throttle's also in the closed position. The fuel shutoff down there is pushed in, and the fuel selector is either left or right side. Today it's on the left, and just to prevent some slushing from tank to tank. The flaps are all the way up. You would check the fire extinguisher, which would be actually between your seats, but I guess it's not here in this one. I don't know where they would. By the way, I'm a little sick, so I'm gonna make a lot of stuffy noises, and I should be working, but my whole nose is all stuffed up. So that's what's happening. Hey, Owls, did we I'm safe for the stream? I didn't. I'm sick right now. So how much fuel is usable in the C172? It depends what model. If it's the R model, it's 56 tanks, so 53 gallons from memory. Something like that. I don't even know if I remember all that stuff. I found... Oh, David, hey, welcome. I have fond memories of those walkarounds. I remember the Cessna Diamond. The Cessna Diamond? I don't know that, unless you mean both. I've never flown a Diamond. But they kind of look like toys to me, those Diamonds. But people say they like them. Is your oil quantity checked? Do we have working beacon light? Yeah, we haven't gotten that far. I'm just doing a preparation. Ugh, I hate being sick. Anyways, with that being done, you can throw your master on. You'd get a well, it's discharging quite a bit. It shouldn't really be that. It shouldn't really be that low, but we'll put our flaps to the full position. Obviously, you're going to want to make sure that there's no one there you're going to hit in the face. And you do a fuel quantity check as well. It's about half tanks. You can throw in your lights and make sure they work, but I don't really care. It's daytime. It doesn't matter. And we'll go outside. Hey, Shaq, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing well, my friend. I don't know why all these covers are here. Where I used to train, the covers wouldn't be there. And I don't know how to actually get rid of them. It might be through the EFB. Oh, you know what? I think I can do it. Oh, wait. Oh, stop. Go back outside. There we go. I have my my mouse. So I can get rid of all this crap for now. So you start at the static port, is where I personally started. That's where the POH, I believe, recommends to start as well. And oh, David, hey, that's when you hit your forehead with the trailing edge of the wing. I think, yeah, I've done that on the 150 and get the imprint of the diamond on your forehead. Yeah, thankfully I haven't hit my head on a 172, but I've close to be hitting my head on an RJ, and I've hit my head on that 152. But can I crouch? Oh, I can. That's cool. Yeah, I would check at the. I would start at the static port, and you're just going to verify that it's clean. And in the chat, if you guys want, I usually, if it's students already been flying a bit, I'd ask, what is the static port? What does it do? What does it measure? That kind of thing. So check, make sure that's all clean. You gotta verify that your air vents are clean as well. You love the vertical format? Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. I'm still working on getting a nicer looking vertical format, but yeah, thanks, Skymaster. So if the air vents are all clean and the door hinges are all good, sim it probably will never not be good. You remove the pitot cover. And in the pitot cover, you're just going to make sure that obviously it's clear in the front, and you're also going to verify that the drain is clear at the bottom, which can't zoom in, but there's a little tiny drain port here. And on the test, on the written test, they'll ask, you got to be careful in those written tests, because they'll say a fully blocked pitot tube, or a partially, or the front of the pitot tube is blocked, or the drain is blocked. Because depending if it's fully blocked, will change what instruments are, how it reads inside. If just the front's blocked, and if just the drain is blocked. So a question for you is, if the front is fully blocked, the drain is open, and the static port is operating normally, what would your airspeed indicator read? So that could be a question. If you guys want to answer, you can in there, but I'll give it to you at the end of the walk around here, if I remember. The stall warning. Some have the little tab, some have this little hole. Do not suck on them, just visually inspect them and make sure they're good. Don't try to get a sound out of them. And then just behind that is your fuel vent. You're just gonna make sure that's clear as well, and this would help ventilate some air in the tank. So as you lose fuel, air will replace the fuel that has been lost or used, and helps push the rest of the fuel down, as this is gravity fed fuel in the 172. The last known airspeed, if both were blocked, it would be as VSI. So if it's the front block with the drain still open, it would be static minus static. And if my memory serves, static minus static will equal 0 on the airspeed. But you can always correct me. Landing light, taxi light, looking good. No bumps and bangs on that guy. Your nav light, the red on the left, strobe is okay. You can feel them in real life to make sure they're not, too wiggly. Aileron. A couple things to check on the aileron. I don't know if they're actually modeled. so it doesn't look like it, but there would be a wire right here, and that's your grounding wire. So what happens if you fly through the air, you pick up static electricity. So the air is flowing right to left, it hits the wing, it'll go through that little grounding wire and then exit up the static wick. So that's how that would do that. Then you have obviously the 3 connections. You would also have the counterweight, which I can't, can I zoom? No. You'd have a counterweight here usually, and those counterweights are there to prevent flutter. So if they ever ask on a flight test, why is there a counterweight there? It's to prevent flutter of the ailerons, because they're just too light. And then you'd also have this little middle hinge that you can just wiggle, just make sure it's free and loose as well, and then you can put the aileron back. The flaps, you have the 2 kind of tracks it glides along, and then the middle beam here, again, I would also twist that. That should be, you shouldn't be crazy loose, but just, you know, free. And then you should be able to shake it just to make sure it doesn't go back in its track, but I don't know if I can't shake it here. So anyways, you give it a shake, make sure that it's not going to go back in its track. I've never actually flew a 172 with fairings on. Let me see if I can turn those off. Aircraft? Nope. There's probably a way to do it. Anyways, we'll do it with the fairings on, but we'll let the fairings, or you would check for the 3 screws plus the cedar pin through the middle. And you'd also verify that you have, first of all, no hydraulic leakage of the brake, and you can actually check the brake pad and the brake hydraulic line, but it looks like that's all covered. And you can kind of see that we have an okay tire. You can't really see much of that tire, so they do save, I think, what is it, 2 knots true airspeed via the POH, which is another test question sometimes, which, I mean, they're pretty pointless in my opinion. Let me catch up with the chat here. Thanks for everyone stopping in on the vertical and the horizontal stream. Really appreciate that. Some third-party dev needs to make a really good 172. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it's kind of insane. We haven't had a good 172. It's the most, you know, it's probably one of the most flown airplanes in the world, especially for training. Is definitely the most. And as you have your cargo compartment here, which technically is a 3rd exit. Well, I guess 5th exit because you got the windows too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't fit through this. I don't know how you guys are going to fit through it, but you would check that you have all your necessary stuff. Like we would have a first aid here, back here, and your ELT would be a compartment for that back there as well, at least on the ones I used. And yeah, any tail or tie downs, you can put them in here, whatever. And make sure the door just nicely locks or closes again. This one has an alternate static, most likely because it has the autopilot. So if there's an autopilot, you'll have an alternate static back there as well. Some have it, some don't. I look at this side of the wing. Again, you're just looking for general bumps and bangs and scratches. Who flew it last, you don't know, so be careful. And since we already gave you the question on the pitot blockage, what are these 2 antennas up here? And what's that little one sticking out right there? What are these? And what's this? That's another question for you. Anyways, moving on back. You have the identification plate, which is supposed to survive if an accident happens, even with fire. So that's what that is. And then you have the horizontal stabilizer. You're just going to make sure that the leading edge is all nice and clean. This is plastic, this part, so, and this part too, so these might have scratches and stuff in it, but that doesn't really matter. It's more the metal that you don't want to have cracks and stuff through. And you have the 3 hinges. Actually, this should not be here, and I'll talk about that once we get to the right elevator, but in this side you should only have that hinge and this hinge. And you'd be able to check, can't really do it much here, but you'd be able to check the hinges to make sure they're all free and are moving nicely. Same, it's hard to maneuver, same in the tail there. You have a cable there and a cable there. Exit to your yoke. And with the rudder, I can't move it for some reason, but you should be able to move it left and right. You'll have a hinge on this side, a hinge on that side, and then it's hard to see, but you'll have a hinge, and a hinge. You'd want to make sure you got all those as best you can. And in this time of year, or in October, when the birds are all coming, trying to stay away, The birds love to go inside. There's some holes here. They love to go dig inside. So listen for little chirps and make sure that you... I've had a plane with a nest in it once. So the reason that... Oh, where'd it go? The reason that this shouldn't be here is that's the trim one. So at least from the planes I've flown, there's only had 2 on the left and 3 on the right, and that's because there's no trim tab on this one. It's just the right side that has trim tab, and the reason they only have it on the right is for basically cost saving. But you would verify that, again, all the hinges are okay, and that the trim one, I wouldn't touch it, but just looks connected. And what you could do at this point is run in the plane and go full nose up and full nose down and make sure the trim works. I think I actually can do that with my yoke actually without having to move. Let's see. Can't really tell. No, it's not really doing anything. But anyways, you can go full nose up, full nose down, make sure the trim works at that point as well. So if you guys didn't know what these were, that's your COM1, that's your COM2 antenna, and that little thing sticking out, that's actually your temperature probe. And then this guy's your GPS. So that sometimes will last that in flight tests as well. These 2 guys are your navigation, so your VOR1 and VOR2. And the bottom should have ADF and transponder and all that kind of stuff. This one's your ELT. This side of the flap, again, I'd shake it. You can't in the sim, but I'd give it a shake. And basically it's the same thing on the other side. Make sure that they're on their track. You give it a little bit of a wiggle. You go over here, you got 1, 2, 3 hinge, and then the middle one, you'd be able to twist it, make sure it's just kind of free and correct, or free and loose. Then you'd have that other grounding wire that's not there, and the counterweight as well, which is not there in the sim, it seems. Strobe light, nav light, nothing's cracked. Walk my way over to the gear. You can't really check much on the gear when it's in the fairing here, but no hydraulic fluid leak. It's kind of really much you can do there. And then the leading edge of the wing looks okay. Stand back up top. There we go. And then in this fuel vent as well looks okay. Oil, I'm not sure how much. Oh, you can actually, that's kind of cool. I can't really see because I can't zoom, but for the planes, from memory, it was an 8-quart max, and we like to operate around 5 to 6 area, something like that. And if oil is very, or if the airplane just flew and it was very hot, it wouldn't be this dark. It'd actually be almost see-through. So what you'd have to do is take a napkin or something, run it along this until you hit grease, and that's kind of where it is. And even if you hit it, let's say I hit grease at 5 quarts, because it's just run, there's some oil in the system that hasn't been in the sump yet, so you'd probably have 5.5 or so. How can I close that? There we go. Going down, you got the oleo. I don't know if I can do that. Maybe for pulling it, push back pull. And then you have the shimmy dampener, which dampens shimmy. Oleo, you want to see about 4 fingers or so, 3 to 4 fingers. I've had somewhere 6 fingers, and it's a little interesting. You're kind of high on the tail strike area. The exhaust, make sure there's no cracks in the exhaust, and you can't really see into this part of the exhaust, so I would give it I'd usually flick it, and if you hear a nice ding ring out, then you know, it's kind of the best you can do. If you kind of have a hollow ding, there might be a hole or some big crack in there that you can't actually see. The prop, I wouldn't touch it, as the school I used to work for and fly out of did not do ground checks, of the spark plug checks, so you can have a live wire, and you might go on 1 rotation. So I would just take a look at it, front, back of the prop, the edges of the prop, spinner, no birds. This is your alternating cable right there. Everything looks good in there, and then the air vent in the front. And then I always like to take 1 little step back and get some sort of big picture aspect look at it. And if everything looked good, then I'd jump in the airplane. Shock says Black Square needs to do one with tablets showing the electrical system and engine would be a great learning tool. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know why they haven't made one. Like, I actually can't understand why they haven't made one yet. It seems quite silly. I know there's already one in the sim, but the sim one is pretty terrible. like you know, from like a flight model and all that kind of perspective. Take a quick drink. So the student would sit on this side, instructor would sit on this side. I'm kind of used to being on this side, but I'll get rid of the yoke so we can kind of see. But we'll do it from this side for now, and then I'll kind of transfer back and forth, and I'll say, you know, when I would take control as an instructor, I'll be on this side, and when I'm pretending to be the student, I'll be on this side. So again, you go by the checklist, which I don't have with me anymore. I gave it to my friend who's starting flight training, but you throw in the master, you can throw in your nav and beacon. The airplane we'll say hasn't flown, so we'll do a cold start procedure. We'll go fuel to both tanks. Go full rich on the mixture. We're going to add our fuel pump in, and we're going to look for just a bit of a jolt in that fuel flow. No more than 5 seconds. Might not be modeled, but it's good enough. Mixture back to idle cutoff, as this is a fuel injected bird. In the carbureted engine ones, you start with it rich. The fuel injected ones, you start with it idle cutoff, and you add as you start the engine, which isn't modeled all that well in the sim. But anyways, you'd open the window up, you'd yell out clear prop, and make sure there's no one around, no kids running or anything like that. You turn the key, and once you hear the engine starting to catch is when you go boom with the mixture. Just go full rich. And again, it doesn't work too well in the sim, but we'll have to do an abbreviated version. Okay, and you release the key back in the both position, and we're going to add a little bit of, I should have actually had a throttle for that start. I should have about a 1/4 inch. But we're going to add a little bit of power, so we're at 1,000 RPM. Hopefully the sim sounds are loud enough. If they're not, let me know. Actually, they seem pretty low. Oh, they're at 100. Okay, well, if they seem low to you guys, let me know, and I can throw them up, or if I'm too quiet, whatever you want. With that running, with the engine up and running, you got the oil pressures in the green. Temperature is slowly going to be climbing into the green. We can throw our avionics on. So that's all coming back online. Crazy how much you remember about this stuff. We gained some subscribers, so really appreciate that. We're on the road to 2005, I think 6,000. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers, which is kind of insane. This 172 looks like it's never been on the flight before. Yeah, it's pretty spick and span. Barras, welcome. Is this a mod 172? No, this is the default 172 in Microsoft 2024. All default. All right, we'll get these GPSs online, or else we're not really going to use them. We'll just spam the enter button. We'll just start aligning. The autopilot we're not going to use either, so we'll kind of just have that there for now. The transponder we can go to standby. It's 1200 is the VFR squawk, and Brampton frequency was 123.3 from memory. That'd be up there, and then set the practice area frequency. There we go. ADF is here as well. I think all the ADFs are gone, so it's there, but not going to need that. Anyways, we're going to bring our flaps up in stages, so we'll go flap 20. You're going to verify, well, I guess I can't really see, but you want to see that both left and right sides are kind of moving up together. All that's asymmetric and looking good. And that's basically it. The 172 startup isn't all that crazy. We're going to make sure that all our instruments are all nicely set up. So our compass is showing a heading of 239, 238. And it looks like our heading indicator is pretty close. I'll just match up as best I can. Our altimeter, I'm just going to press the B button, which is, it'll set the altimeter for us, but it's pretty close anyways. It's 936 for Brampton, so pretty much close. I don't know why this is in hectopascals. It should be in inches. I wonder if I can change that. Celsius, pounds, knots. It's kind of cool, I guess. Huh. Well, anyways, we'll leave it at HPAs. And then we're going to release the brakes. We're going to do a brake test. We're going to start moving and do a brake test. I bet it doesn't even drift. Probably not. Yeah, the heading indicator probably doesn't. Although I think I have it enabled. But anyways, we're going to release the brakes, and we're the parking brake, that is. And then we're going to tap the brakes to make sure that the airplane brakes work, basically. So release the brakes there. I'm going to add a little bit of power. And we're going to get moving. Shouldn't need this. Oh, you know what it is? I know what it is. I think the chocks were still in place. I didn't think I actually had to do that, but I guess I do. So we'll put this back on. I wonder how I get rid of those. Is it as simple as getting out and actually taking them out? Because that would be pretty funny if that is that simple. Alright, let's just kill it real quick. Avionics off. Kill the mixture. Turn these off for the time being. Go outside. Can I click these chocks? Oh, I can. Alright, cool. Can I walk through the airplane? No. Alright, go all the way around. Hi, random person. With a headset on for some reason. Oh, the chocks auto get removed. Alright, cool, on both sides. Sweet. Alright, I'll do it again. It's already been primed. Add a bit of throttle in there. Nav, beacon, or beacon nav, I should say. Alrighty. And we're kind of back where we were. The GPSs are coming back online. Heading still set. The bearing still set. And our vacuum pressure is going to get increased. So this will kind of get a little bit more aligned there by itself. That's avionics. So we're going to add in our power now. Idle or power. I keep saying thrust. Thrust is a jet term. Push the brakes. The brakes work. And we'll get going again. Mathis, heading indicator drift in 2020-24 is mostly 24 code, so it should drift. Okay, cool. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Alright, we're going to watch our wing here. So I'm going to go a little bit more to the left, just a tad bit. And then we're going to go straight and turn right. And this would be the instructor most likely on a lesson this early. I'm full right rudder, and my brakes are kind of hard to hit at the same time, so it's going to be a bit of an interesting taxi experience. But if you guys don't know, this airplane doesn't have your conventional nose wheel steering. You'll have the rudder put in the direction you want to go, and after you've gotten there, you're going to add a little bit of right and or left brake, depending if you want to turn right or left, and that'll send a little bit of hydraulic pressure to the nose gear to turn it. Yeah, no worries, Mathis. I got what you mean. You would do a compass or a heading indicator check and a turn coordinator check, where I'm going to take this right-hand turn here, and we're going to verify that a compass is freely swinging. Our heading indicator turns to the right, and the turn coordinator shows a turn to the right, and the ball should show an opposite yaw, which kind of is, but not all that much. You'd have to do that to the right turn, and you'd have to do it to the left turn as well. So some people will do it right as the exit, and then left in this little run-up circle. See if I can remember the run-up all by memory. That'll be interesting. I noticed in the sim, the airplane is like, it has that left turning tendency, like insane. Like this is no rudder and it's already going to the left. It's not really that bad in real life. You don't need that much rudder all the time. It's more on the high power settings. This is not default scenery. This is, I forget who made it, but it's Brampton, Charlie November, Charlie 3 on the marketplace. I think it's like 15 bucks. So I'm gonna do a left turn here, and we're gonna go into that circle, and then we're gonna check the left instruments. So we'll go left here. Compass is nice free swing, and the heading indicator swinging to the left, plus the turn coordinator and opposite ball. So that would be one test there. Now we're gonna put ourselves right into the wind. The wind is coming from the west there. We got a bit more dug in this corner here, because this turn or this circle can actually hold 4 airplanes, which I don't recommend going here if there's 4 airplanes, or even 2's already a party to kind of get out of here. But make sure the nose gear is centered. Press on the brakes. Throw the parking brake on. We'll idle at 1,000 RPM. We always idle at 1,000 RPM. And we're kind of nestled in this little corner. And probably would have went a little bit more forward so people can exit if they need to there, but there's no one else here. So this is our little run-up circle. So we're going to run the engine up and make sure that the engine is performing correctly. That's basically what we're going to do. Mathis says, okay, I was going to say I'm not really impressed if there's default. Yeah, I know. I wish it was default. One thing in real world, even though the parking brake is on, you're going to want to manually hold these brakes because the parking brakes aren't the best. So always hold it. So anyways, so now the student I'd have them work through their checklist. And if it depends on each student, if they're really, you know, out of it or kind of just sitting there for the ride, then I would kind of do everything. That's more of an intro flight. I kind of like to have the student do some of the work on their lessons, you know, on their first one, just so they can start getting used to at least the buttons. But anyways, some things to check is the mixture's full rich. We're idling at 1,000. Temperature pressure's in the green. We have obviously the mags are on both. And we're also going to make sure that there's no one behind us, which there isn't. And in that case, we're going to hold the brake still, and we're going to apply to 1800 RPM. Okay, the engine's nicely kind of climbing on up nicely. We're going to do a electrical load check, so we're going to turn all the electrics on, including the pitot heat, just for a little bit. And we're also just going to take a look at these amps. I'm going to wiggle the flap, and you should see the amp meter jump. Okay, it doesn't jump in the sim, but it would kind of wiggle. We want to make sure it goes back to 0. If it goes to the negative, it's just charging the battery, which means the alternator is not charging it, which is bad. You'll lose battery in about 30 minutes. No electrical power. And then if it's in the plus in a little bit, that just means, you know, alternator is charging it. If it's in the plus massively, then you're had a pretty dead battery. I'd go take a look at that. Might be even a gauge problem at that point. And so throwing everything off we don't need. We're going to do our magneto check. So there's 2 magnetos in the airplane, 2 for redundancy. The airplane could work on 1 technically. And we're going to throw it on the left magneto. What the magnetos do is it makes electric sparks. It's a magnet, so electrical magnet, and it'll provide electrical, it's what gives the spark plugs their spark, if that makes sense. Just some coil wrapped around a magnet. So go to the left side, and we'll get a drop of about 100. That's good. The max is 125. We'll go back to both. I don't know why I remember all these numbers. And we'll go the key to the left twice to the right magneto. And a drop of 100. We'll go back to both. And it rises back to 1800. We'll do a mixture check. So you might see a tiny rise as I pull fuel away. Sometimes not, but you should definitely see a fall. Okay, so the mixture works. Okay, we're going to check idle, so I'm going to pull the throttle right to idle and make sure the engine can sustain. Should be a minimum of 650 RPM. It's pretty close. And we'll go back to 1,000. And that would basically be the run-up part complete. I don't know why. I think I actually memorized quite a bit of that. But that would be the run-up. Now that you're here, you'd also check your radios. We have COM 1 and COM 2. You'd call into the Unicom frequency and make sure that the radios are working. So it'd be like Brent Unicom, and then your call sign Bravo Foxtrot Alpha radio check COM 1. They come back and say Bravo Foxtrot Alpha 5x5, whatever. And then the same thing on COM 2 and make sure that all works. So yeah. Then you could do the before takeoff stuff. You can either do it here or taxi out. I like to do it here because when you taxi out, there's so many planes at this airport in real world that it's time to go. And the taxi doesn't take all that long. So once again, you would just check that the temperature pressure is in the green. Fuel's on both. Mixture would be, let's actually lean it for, we're going to lean it for taxi. But you're just going over a bunch of things that you kind of already looked at. But obviously, follow the checklist you have in real life. So now, I'm going to... Oh, I don't want the yoke to do that, but I'm going to hold the yoke full back to get that nose gear off the... or at least a little less pressure off that nose gear, as much as possible. And notice the airplane doesn't really turn as tight as it does real life. You can really turn a 172 very tight, but it doesn't kind of do that in the sim. And the reason I'm holding up back pressure is so that prop wash over the elevator drops the tail down and lifts the nose up, so there's less pressure on the nose gear, so it's easier to turn it left and right on the ground. Little trick you can do. Now we're in a very small airplane. The wind is from our back right. So here's a trick. Let me stop real quick. This is a trick for you guys if you're ever doing taxiing with your wind corrections. I'm gonna slam the brakes here. We'll go idle at 1,000. We'll go take a look at this windsock. And oh, that's the wrong button. There we go. The wind is coming from this direction, right? It's flowing this way. So right now, if you look at our airplane, it is a tailwind from the right. So we always go opposite direction for a tailwind when taxiing. So if it's a tailwind from the right, we're going to apply left aileron, and we're actually going to do a little bit of nose down pressure. Although I forget if the POH calls for the nose down part or not, but I can actually grab that in a second. But we'll go opposite of the wind. So a little trick that I was talking about is I like to bug where the wind is. So the wind right now is from the west, so I'm going to bug from the west. It's going west to east. It's going that way. So now I say, hey, it's in my back right corner of my airplane, so I'm going to go away. I'm going to turn away from the wind. That's a little trick I like to use and like to teach. And the what I was going to mention to you guys, if you don't trust me about it, let me get it on both streams here. There's the POH I found online. So I think it was in section... I think it was in section 3, which is normal, or 4, I guess, is normal procedures. Can I click on that? Because I don't want to scroll. I can't. All right, well, let's scroll a little bit. This is the POH, Pilot Operating Handbook. As a student pilot, you'll get pretty familiar with this. And where kind of everything is. I recommend tabbing certain sections. Still an emergency. That's your glide profile chart. So if any time an examiner asks you how far, let's say you're flying over water, how do you know that you can glide to shore? You can use this chart. Just be sure to read the conditions. Speed 68 knots, propeller windmilling, flap up, 0 wind. Those are the conditions right there. All right, section 4. Scrolling down. There's the walk around. Actually, I guess I could just do this. That's smarter. There it is. Go back up. So this is your taxi diagram with wind. So you can see here, this is the wind we have right here. Use down aileron or right wing and down elevator. So down aileron, right wing looks like this. Notice how it's down on the right wing, and to achieve that, it's like that. And down elevator. It does say it in the POH, so I wasn't going crazy. So you should be taxiing with this wind like this, all the way down. That's how you should be taxiing. And if you turn the airplane, that means the wind is at a different part of this chart. You're going to have to adjust. Now that's why I have bugged it. Get rid of that. That's why I have bugged it for myself right there. Anytime I turn, I have the wind right there and I can adjust. So it's quite annoying to taxi like this in the sim because the TCA yoke is constantly working against me right now. But anyways, that's how we're supposed to taxi the airplane in a tailwind situation. And we're going to go all the way down. We're going to cross runway 26 over here and we're going to go all the way down to runway 33. And really, real world, you don't really want to be going faster than 10 knots as these taxiways are very, very tiny. What I might do is make this a bit smaller for you guys in the vertical stream and kind of put it off in some sort of corner for you. Vera says, those flight school airplane... Oh, way too much power. That's my yoke has it mapped to as well, which I did not know about that. Those flight school airplanes always seem to have loose shimmy dampers. Yeah, they do. They definitely do. All right, well, my hand's starting to hurt in the sim, so I'm just going to relieve my taxi pressure, but that's how you would, see? If you don't have that wind correction in, especially if the wind increases, it's going to be an interesting day for you. And the airplane is going to start to lean to one side or the other, and you make a lot of corrections with the rudder pedal. All right, let's kind of get in this little corner here. Make sure the nose gear is straight, and we'll press the brakes there. Always idle at 1,000 RPM. All right, and then basically it's at the runway check. So for memory, we're gonna check the controls. So we'll go full left, full right, look at the other side, full right, full left, look all the way behind you, pull up, pull down. I don't think it does. It doesn't do that much. It doesn't affect the airplane that much. Pull down and rudder right and rudder left, which you can't really see the left all that much. Next, if the student is ready to go, we can go and throw in our lights. Landing taxi strobe, why not? Just make sure the heading indicator is still synced. We're showing 115. It's a little bit off. That's good there. I don't know why the GPS is turning. That's not correct. The GPS is a GPS, not a heading indicator. Mixture goes to full rich, and then any flap settings we might need. On a normal takeoff, there's no flaps required for 172 S model. The G1000 I think needs it, but not this one. So this being an uncontrolled airport, we would just verify everything is clear, and we'd say Brampton traffic, Bravo Fox Alpha, lining up runway 33. And then you would say departing for the circuit, departing northbound, departing west, whatever you're doing. In this case, we're going to depart north. We're going to take you guys to the practice area. Also, do you want a quick checklist? I can PM you. No, it's okay. It's all my brain for the most part. Get on this runway. Again, the airplane doesn't turn as tight as the real one does. But good enough. Nice to get all settled up. And then the takeoff procedure. One thing I'm going to mention is once the power is set, we're just going to glance at the gauges. So I'll go from the student perspective. We'd glance at these gauges here, the temperature, oil pressure, and oil temperature, which actually would have been checked at the runway checklist behind us there. And then you're also going to look for the airspeed alive. So when this needle starts to move, should happen around 40 knots. And that's basically it. So if it, at the beginning, I told my students if they want to announce it, then let me know that they're checking it. Temperature, pressure, degree, and airspeed alive. That all works. I hear on some streams and on Discord, some people flying the Airbus, and they're like, you know, Manflex S or whatever, airspeed alive, 100 knots. And they do all these calls. Airspeed alive is there's only one airspeed indicator in here, so airspeed alive makes sense. But there's no reason to call airspeed alive in an airliner because the 100 knots call is what that call is. You're checking that one side says 100, the other side says 100, and you're cross-checked. So airspeed alive and saying 100 knots doesn't make sense in airliner world. Anyway, that's a different topic. So we're going to release our brakes. We're going to smoothly add full power, and we're going to add our right rudder as well. Temperature pressure is in the green. The airspeed needle is alive. It's nicely moving, and our headwind's from the left, so I'm adding a little bit of left aileron for this wind. We're going to pull up, or we're going to rotate at 55 knots. The airspeed just shot up, so there's 55, and kind of wrestle it in the air. And then we're going to start pitching up, and we're going to start pitching for our VY speed. VY is your best rate of climb. So it's the most amount of altitude, least amount of time. And that is, in this airplane, an S model is 74 knots. R model is 79. And the P model is 76. The turbulence is quite insane. I don't think it'd be that bad right now, but, you know. Anyways. And I'm going to trim for it. Hopefully I don't have to work too hard. CL65, hey, welcome. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Thanks for shopping on in. Alright, and at this part, if it's your first lesson, this would be the instructor flying at this part, most likely, depending on the level of the student, but 9 times out of 10 will be the instructor flying at this part. And we're going to depart the circuit. So to depart the circuit, we're going to maintain this heading until we're at the circuit altitude, which is 1900 feet. That's not me doing that, by the way, with the rudder. That's just the turbulence going around. And then we're going to turn on to our VFR corridor, which is on the right side of that highway right there. That's highway 10. So we're passing 1900 feet. We're going to turn to the right. This is highway 10 right there. All traffic going northbound has to be on the east side of highway 10 at this airport. I know that because I used to teach here. That's more local knowledge and it's in the charts, but you wouldn't know that if you're just simming it. And we can go up to a max of 2,400 or 2,500 feet, and then we get into the terminal airspace. So we're gonna start nosing on down. And we're gonna retrim for it as well. And so usually here, if it's not too bumpy, is where I would give control to the student, and I would start mentioning some things. So what I'd start mentioning is, if we look out the cockpit here, without looking at any of this is all garbage. Don't look at anything in here. Just look outside. And we got roughly out the window, if I were to pause, I'll zoom in here. Out the window, roughly, we have 2/3 out of the window, or 1/3 out of the window is ground, just this little sliver, and the other 2/3 from the horizon upwards is all sky. So 2/3 sky, 1/3 ground. This is known as our cruise attitude. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hold altitude, but this is the cruise attitude. So anytime you recover from a maneuver or you want to start leveling off and that kind of thing, you come back to the cruise attitude. Wings are level, 1/3 ground, 2/3 sky. And if you get really good at this in the sim or in real life as well, it makes your life so much easier. This is what's called VFR flying, and we fly like this. We don't fly inside here. This is all useless crap. We look outside. 1/3 ground, 2/3 sky. So once you've achieved this picture outside for yourself, that's when we just take a quick peek inside to verify everything's going well, and then we go back outside. So let me unpause, and I'm going to go ahead and hold this 2/3 sky, 1/3 ground. Okay, so it should be roughly about there. We're going to take a peek at the, oh, the nose is rising a little bit. We're going to take a peek at the vertical speed indicator. You can say, oh, we're in a slight climb. So you just nose down a little bit. I might actually have to, let me go ahead and change my sensitivities, as they're kind of insanely sensitive right now. On the, yeah, that has to be massively reduced. It's way too sensitive. Okay, so same story. So looking outside, be like, yeah, that looks pretty level to me, like we're holding altitude. Then we go inside, we're in a very, very slight descent, so a very small change with a bit of nose up, and that'll fix that. And you'll find yourself holding level flight without even realizing it, just holding this attitude outside. And you're going to hold pretty close to level flight. The bumps will kind of bump you around, but it's your job to just fix that. That's kind of it. So that's where I'd start with a very first student. They wouldn't have been doing any of the stuff before. I'd probably do most of that. Well, I'd let them do the checklist stuff, but I would do the takeoff and the climb and all that. Taxiing, I like to show them how to taxi, and then on the straightaways, I would give them control of how to taxi there. Then maybe try the last turn or two. Slowly introduce taxiing. Simple, hey, welcome. I was there yesterday for the rocket. Oh, nice. How'd that go? Hopefully that went well. So this up here is coming along as the gravel pits, we call it. This is one of our reporting points. Because all the little hills and water, it gets quite bumpy here, which is actually very realistic. That happens a lot. There's the bumps already starting, so that's actually very real. And the reason we're not climbing any higher is we have an airspace restriction above us with Toronto Pearson. So we're just going to stay under that Class Charlie airspace. You can go in it if they give you clearance to. You contact them on 119.3. I got it? Yeah, well done. Congratulations. When's your first flight? That should be coming up pretty soon, right? So I'd probably in real life, I'd have the student try to hold me at this cruise attitude until we're able to climb. And depending on how well they're doing and how much more information, you kind of have to have a sense of how much more information they can intake as an instructor. But if you kind of get the sense they can take a little bit more information, I'd kind of slowly walk them through a climb, or have them hold the controls with me as I do a climb, which will be coming up here shortly. So this is what the student would be looking at. Take a drink of water. Oh, I'm out of water. That's great. Alright, now we're past this gravel pit. You would be making radio calls in real world as well, but now that we're past this landmark here, it just so happens that the airspace gets higher at this point. It's actually just past these trees on the other side of this town, at Caledon. And at that point, we'd be able to climb. So I'd say, yeah, good job. I'll have my control again, and we'll do a climb. So for climbs, it wouldn't be part of this lesson technically, but I'll go through it on the I'll go through it with you on the stream. We do APT, and this is actually pretty much for every single airplane you'll ever fly for the most part. It's attitude, power, trim. Even in the IFR world, you can do this. You're just going to be referencing the attitude indicator instead of, or your PFD instead of outside. So attitude, power, trim. We're going to put this nose. We're going to pull up this nose to the horizon. We're going to add full power. And we're going to trim for it. So let's bring the nose up. And I'll show you from this side so you guys get a sense of the airspeed. There's the nose right to the horizon. Full power. And as we do that, a little bit of right rudder because we have that left turning tendency that's going on. And we're roughly, you can pitch for VY again if you want to climb at the with the most amount of altitude, least amount of time, which we kind of do at this point. Or you can do more of an en route climb, which is 95 or so knots. This thing in the sim is like a rocket ship. It doesn't climb this good in real life, I can guarantee you. Hey, Flight Say, Lottie, what's going on? I keep calling you your real name or your YouTube name. I'm doing a little bit of 172 stuff from back in my instructor days. Thanks for stopping in. In a couple weeks, if not cancel for weather. Yeah, I hear ya. And I'm just trimming. I'm going to maintain this nose on the horizon. Just touching the horizon there. Full power. And this would be known as a nose up attitude. So no ground out the window. Well, out the center at least. Just sky. And our next altitude shell is 3,500 feet. So I'm going to do attitude, power, trim to level off. Attitude, I'm going to push the nose down to get back to our cruise attitude, which was 2/3 sky, 1/3 ground. And once we have it roughly looking there, there's a 1/3 ground, 2/3 sky. I'm going to reduce my power to about 2,200 RPM or so, 23, somewhere around there. And I'm having to hold this yoke down, so I'm going to add a little bit of nose down trim. It's a little harder to do in the sim without the force feedback, but it's easier, obviously, real world. So, attitude, power, trim. Think of an apartment. APT, our apartments go up. APT going up, attitude, power, trim. And leveling off from a climb is attitude, power, trim as well. So, lower the nose, gain some airspeed. Power, reduce your power back to roughly a cruise power, 2,300 RPM, somewhere in there in the green arc. And then trim. Any trim necessary to hold that 1/3 ground, 2/3 sky outside. That's what we want to hold. And you see, if you do that, you're going to hold within, a couple feet or so. It's going to be bouncing on you a little bit, but that's it. This is the town of Orangeville, and we'd make a radio call here, and I'd say we'd be actually on the next frequency already. But it's all uncontrolled out here. So you'd say Orangeville traffic, Bravo Fox Alpha over the town of over the Orangeville Reservoir, 3,500 northbound to Shelburne. Shelburne, if you take this road over there, you hit Shelburne. I'm just going all by land map. I don't need GPS anymore. I've been around here too much, so you can get around eventually without needing all that stuff. We're VFR flying. That's what it is. And then, so this is going to be Orangeville, and I kind of showed you cruise attitude. If you guys in the chat want to go put cruise attitude, how many thirds sky, how many thirds ground for cruise attitude, you can put in chat. We'll put a bit of a Bit of a trivia in there for you. But I've shown you cruise attitude. I've shown you nose up, where that cowling was basically just kissing the horizon. The next one we're going to show you is nose down. Oh, is it just stationary? I could change that for you guys. Sorry about that. There you go. I don't really have it going anywhere. It's just kind of set to follow me. So, there you go. Not really using it either. Anyways, we're passing Orangeville now, so we're going to be in the next sector. The next sector we can go up basically as high as we want in a 172 land. So, to climb again is attitude, power, trim. I'm going to bring this nose to the horizon. Add full power and a little bit of rudder necessary. There's the nose up. Full power. And because this airplane propeller spins to the right, we're going to have an opposite force and everything bringing us to the left. You'll notice if I zoom in here to this ball, it wants the ball's moving to the right a little bit. I need to step on the ball, so I need a little bit of right rudder just to keep this airplane coordinated in the center there. So attitude, power, trim. I have the attitude, I have my power. I'm having to hold nose up, so I'm going to trim nose up a little bit. And I have my rudder pressure input as well. Everything's going well. And I can basically let go of the yoke. And the airplane, for the most part, is going to do what I need it to do. So we're going to continue climbing up to 4,500 feet or so. Lonnie says 1/3 ground, 2/3 sky. He got it. That's it. That's our cruise attitude. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to hold altitude, but that's the attitude that we recover to from a climb, a descent, or a stall maneuver, that kind of, you know, those kind of maneuvers. Just a tad bit simpler than an RJ, a little bit. Just a bit. Does the plane have rudder trim? Physically controlling the rudder with the pedals. Physically controlling with the pedals. Some do have rudder trim, but most don't. Most just have elevator trim like this. So you're having to hold that right pedal the entire takeoff, the entire climb. Anytime it's really high power settings, you're going to have to hold it. We're going to go up another 1,000 feet. Now, a rule of thumb, guys, for climbing, or for leveling off, I should say, let's say I wanted to level off at 4,800, whatever. A rule of thumb we use is 10% of the vertical speed. So we're doing about 700 feet per minute. So 70 feet prior to 4,800 is when I'd start to do APT, attitude, power, and trim. Bring the nose down, gain some speed, reduce some thrust, and trim. We're going to go up to 5,500 though, so we're going to keep going a little bit more. But 10% of the vertical speed. And it looks like there's some clouds coming up. Real life, we wouldn't really go into those, obviously. So I'm just going to get rid of them for the simulation purpose so we can kind of just keep going. There we go. And, you know, we're VFR. VFR, you can't go into a cloud. It's actually illegal to go into a cloud if you're VFR. Plus, there's icing with the airplane. This airplane's not equipped really to go through icing conditions. So we'll do it like this so we can have more of a realistic experience of what we would do. You could definitely do circuits as we were below the clouds there, but we wouldn't be able to do upper air work like we're gonna do. But it gets rid of that obnoxious simulator computer bumping. So we want to level off at 55. We're roughly doing about 70, about 800 feet per minute. So 80 feet, there's 20 basically there. We're gonna start nosing on down nice and smooth to 2/3 sky, 1/3 ground. I was about 80 feet away from 55, and I'm holding the yoke pressure forward. I'm holding that yoke pressure forward and my right rudder pressure as well to keep everything coordinated. And as we accelerate, they're just past 100 knots. I'm going to reduce my throttle a little bit, and you can basically do it by sound once you get really good at it. I'm gonna guess that's about 2,300, 2,200 right there. We'll take a look in a second. We're VFR, we don't care that much. And then I'm having to hold yoke down, so I'm going to trim. Trim's the last thing. You got to work a little bit to trim. Maybe a little bit more nose up, tad bit. All right, let's take a look at the RPM. Showing 25, so can't a little bit more. Just a wee bit more. There we go. And we're nicely cruising at 5,500 feet. Attitude power trim to climb, attitude power trim to level off. That's more of a climb lesson, which I wouldn't really show in a first lesson. I would actually just teach attitudes and movements. So let's go back to that. Attitude wise, we had cruise altitude, what we talked about. 2/3 sky, 1/3 ground. We had nose up, which was nose to the horizon. The last one, or the third, there's 4 actually. The second last one is nose down. Nose down, we aim for about 50-50 out the window. So let me put the nose down. And about there, we got 50 ground, we got 50 sky. And what can you expect in a nose down to happen? Well, your altitude is going to be decreasing, obviously, and your airspeed is going to be increasing, hopefully. And we didn't talk about it, but in the nose up attitude, if I bring that nose back up to the horizon, there's the nose up attitude. What's going to happen here? Obviously, your altitude should be increasing, and your airspeed is going to be decreasing. So that's what happens in a nose up and a nose down. And we'll put ourselves back to that cruise attitude. So it doesn't matter what you do. Once you get really good at looking at cruise attitude, you'll never unsee this picture outside. This little, they call it a sight picture. Once you see this sight picture, you can always return to it. How much are you charging for this tutorial right now? It's about 85 an hour. Nah, I'm just doing this because I don't really see a lot of people stream 172 stuff, so I thought I'd go back into my little instructor days and do some of that. This is the town of Shelburne. And so I would say Shelburne area traffic, Bravo Fox at Alpha. So actually, let's go through a radio call. Again, I would not do this on a first lesson, but let's go through a radio call. First step is identify where you are. This is Shelburne. So I'd start my call with Shelburne area traffic, or Shelburne traffic. Who am I? I'm just going to make up a call sign. We'll just say BFA, so Bravo Foxtrot Alpha. Where am I? So let's imagine this is Shelburne right here and draw a line from it. We're off to the east. That's the easiest way to do that. So we're off to basically the northeast side of Shelburne. You can roughly guess a mileage. Let's say maybe half a mile. And then our altitude is about 5,300. So I would say Shelburne area traffic, Bravo Foxtrot Alpha, northeast of Shelburne, half a mile, 5,300, heading northbound. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to change this up a bit. We're going to go to Collingwood as well. So Collingwood's going to be over there. I'm just going to vector myself visually because I pretty much know how to get there at this point. Collingwood's just over there. So we'll go that way. But anyways, that's what that radio call would sound like. And then you can do that format for every other radio call. Just change who you're talking to. So Orangeville area traffic, Shelburne area traffic, Luther Lake area traffic. You know, just change who you're talking to first, and then you do the same thing. Shelburne area traffic, or let's say Orangeville area traffic, Bravo Foxtrot Alpha, north of Orangeville, 10 miles, 5,300, northbound to Collingwood, right? So it's always who are you talking to, who are you, where are you, and what are you doing. The difference with talking to ATC is it's kind of the same thing, except instead of what are you doing, it's what do you want, because ATC has to clear you. So we talked about nose up, nose down, and cruise attitude. The last attitude is the banked attitude. So this is where now you're slicing the horizon off with the cowling, and the wing, in this case, because we're in a left bank, is declined to the horizon, and the right wing is inclined to the horizon. So that would be a left bank, and then vice versa. Notice we're keeping this all nice and level because we're keeping that cruise attitude outside. Not looking at the instruments. Instruments will get you, or not killed, but instruments will make you very sloppy VFR pilot. As an instructor, I can tell easily when someone's looking at the instruments and someone's looking outside. And if they have the right side picture, they fly so much better looking outside. Because these instruments aren't that, they're very easy to chase and not that great. That'd be a right bank, so your right wing is declined and your left wing is inclined to the horizon. And we'll go back to the left. A little bit of rudder, a little bit of aileron. And we'll come back to the left there. So that's all the attitudes. Cruise attitude, nose up, nose down, and banked, left or right. Now the lesson, the first one you'll ever take, is called attitudes and movements. And the reason is there's two portions to this. We have the attitudes, which I just showed, and there's the movements portion of this. The movements is what achieves these attitudes. So pretty simply, you have pitch, which is this. This is pitching the airplane, which will cause a nose up or nose down. You have roll left, roll right, which will cause a banked attitude. And then the last one is yaw. And we don't actually use yaw. We more control yaw, and this is with the rudder pedals, but this would be yaw. That would be yawing, kind of like fishtailing. So that's attitudes and movements. And then I would ask, obviously, the student, they should know what controls that. So elevator controls pitch, ailerons control roll, rudder control your yaw. So that'd be attitudes and movements. And that's kind of your first lesson day. We would not go this far in real life. We would have been turning around already, because that lesson would have been kind of covered, really. And on your first couple flights, most students can't last all that long. They usually get sick and over you know, whelmed with information and all that kind of stuff, and the sights and the sounds and the headset and the radio and the heat and all that kind of stuff. Usually this would be it. So, but we're gonna keep going. We are gonna keep going. So you saw when I did that climb, we did power, attitude, trim. Oh, someone in the vertical stream, Pack003, hey, welcome. Which 172 is this? This is the default 172 in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, just the default one. Let's get back up to 5500. Attitude, power, and not really going to need the trim because it's just a couple hundred feet. All right, and then attitude. We'll keep the power in there a little bit to gain our speed back. And we'll reduce our power a little bit. I keep wanting to say thrust. That's a jet term. And trim, I didn't touch my trim earlier, so I shouldn't have to trim now. Maybe a little bit, but nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Anyways, yeah, so I showed you a climb, and I just did one right there. Attitude, power, trim. To descend, we do pat, P-A-T. It's like patting someone down. You can remember like that, pat. P-A-T is power, attitude, trim. So a little rule of thumb in the 172, if you want to lose 500 feet per minute, or sorry, let me back up. Every 100 foot per minute in the 172, every 100, sorry, let me back up again. Let me try again third time. For every 100 RPM that you increase and or decrease, you will actually change the vertical speed by 100 feet per minute if you did not correct for it. So let's get all nice and level, and we'll kind of show you this here. All nice and level, looking outside, maybe a little bit of nose up trim. The airplane wants to descend a little bit on me. That's pretty good. We're sitting at around 2300 RPM. I'm just going to take it down to 22, sorry. Right there. And I'm not going to do anything to the airplane. I'm just going to let the airplane physically decelerate, as it's going to do. It's going to nose down a little more than it probably wants to, but once it gets that speed back and it finds its balance with 2200, it should start to kind of descend around that 100 foot per minute area. Again, it's a rule of thumb. It kind of does it more in real world than it does in the sim. But for every 100 RPM that you reduce, you should lose 100 feet per minute, roughly. And for every 100 foot per minute or every 100 RPM you add, you should roughly gain 100 feet per minute. You can see it's doing it right now. It's kind of sticking around there. It's going to wobble in here and there, but for the most part, it's doing a pretty good job. And anyways, yeah, so if I go and add my extra 100 RPM back to 2300 again, the airplane, because I haven't retrimmed it, should kind of find a level point again. It might bob and weave a little bit as the extra power has been applied. It might overdo. I see it's climbing a little bit. But once it finds its balance, because I had it trimmed for 2300 RPM earlier, it should basically return almost to level. Pretty cool, right? So for every 100 RPM that you decrease or increase, you'll have an increase or decrease of 100 foot per minute. Also, let's say if I were to decrease by 100, or let's say 500, or actually, let's go back. If I was to decrease by 100 RPM, and I would actually hold my nose up, and I hold that pressure off, I would lose 5 knots. If I increase by 100 RPM and keep the airplane level, cruise attitude, I would gain 5 knots. So for every 100 RPM drop or increase, and if I hold cruise attitude, I will either decrease or increase by 5 knots. And lastly, 100 RPM is 1 degree as well. So if I were to add 100 RPM and the airplane starts to go up at 100 feet per minute, that'll roughly be 1 degree nose up as well. So that's all accounted for. I'm gonna take a left-hand turn because we're getting up to Collingwood, but I want to get too close just yet. Collingwood's gonna be it's just somewhere over there. It hasn't loaded in, so we're just gonna go off to the right. Simple. We monitor 26.7 on the cruise and uncontrolled airspace, right? Depends. In this kind of area, it's so close to the practice area that I would stay on 23.025. But if you're just you know, in the middle of nowhere, then yeah, 26.7. Although it's going to be quite pointless on the frequency. But yeah. So that would be let's do a descent. We're going to do one this way. So I'll kind of get back to my cruise attitude where everything is nice and stable and level. All right, we're going to ensure for our descent our mixture is full rich. I've been leaning it a little bit to save some fuel. But we're going to go back to full rich because as we climb or descend, we don't know the air that we're going into. So we want to make sure we have the most rich mixture just in case we don't know the air mixture. So we'll keep full rich on that fuel mixture. So I'm going to descend. So power attitude trim. Let's go to about maybe 1900 RPM. Power attitude kind of sets itself. I didn't really need to pitch down or anything. The airplane's naturally pitching down now to that 50-50 nose down roughly. I'm actually not really even flying the airplane. I'm kind of hands off. It's kind of doing all of it for me. And then trim, if I need to trim. Looks like the airplane's wanting to nose up a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit of nose down trim, just ever so slight little bit. And that's how we descend, power attitude trim. And again, to level off would be power attitude trim. I'm going to add my power. Bring the nose up manually or physically with the yoke. 2/3 sky, 1/3 ground. And trim it off whatever is necessary to trim. I'm having to hold nose down as I added that trim earlier, I think. But it's whatever you need. Trim for whatever you need. So that'll be a descent. And then usually at the end of each lesson, like we would have already went home because last time would have been attitudes and movements. The next lesson from attitudes and movements is straight and level, which is, we kind of covered it as well a little bit. But at the end of each lesson in real life, I'd always give a little teaser trailer to the next maneuver. So in attitudes of movements, at the very end, I would show them straight and level, which is kind of what they were doing. In straight and level exercise, I would show them the teaser, which is climbs and descents, which you kind of already did right now too. And then a teaser trailer at the end of climbs and descents is turns. The next one is turns. So at the end of each lesson, I would do the next, I would show them the next thing they're going to get into. So turns, you got let's see if I can remember these. I believe it's gentle, medium, and steep, the way they classified them in Canada. So gentle 0 to 15, medium 15, 30, and steep is 35 beyond. So just looking outside, not going to look at the attitude indicator. That's roughly a gentle turn, and you can come inside to verify. There's 10 degrees, pretty good. That's roughly going to be 30 degrees, or a medium, near the end of the medium turn. Pretty good, pretty close, right? VFR is all about pretty close. We're not really, you know, we're not IFR pilots, right? And then lastly, a steep turn would be past 30. So I'll show you guys with a steep turn here, my method to get into steep turns. It's pretty simple. You're going to roll, you're going to add 200 RPM, you're going to trim nose up twice. So watch this. Roll, RPM, trim twice. And we want 45-degree bank angle. And then every so often, just take a quick look in the inside, and you can adjust your vertical speed, but don't stare at it. Look outside. Take a look at the altimeter. It's not moving. Back outside. You know, we're kind of off 30 or 30, 45. Sorry, let's go back to 45 degrees. A little bit more 45, and that would be a steep turn. And then if we wanted to reverse this to go the other way to the right, I would go power reduced, rudder aileron to the right, and then power increased again. So reduce power, rudder aileron doesn't work as well in the sim, and then add that power back in. And we held that 46 there. So that would be a steep turn, and we only really use this for collision avoidance. And you are tested on your flight test. I believe the restriction was you have to be within plus or minus 100 feet. You have to roll out plus or minus 10 degrees in the heading they've told you to roll out, or on the landmark that you've chosen. And then your speed is plus or minus, I think plus or minus 10 as well. So they have all these little things you got to meet on the flight test. For the PPL flight test, you'll do a full 360. And the commercial flight test, you'll do what I just did there, which is go left and then reverse into a right bank. You do left to 180 degrees and then right 180 degrees. You do kind of do this. Let's say if we're going to start on these roads. Let's say we're starting from this point here, these roads here, the ones that go off in the distance. I'm going to roll it on these roads. So the way it would look on a CPL, you bank it on in. All right, the altimeter is one of the fastest reacting instruments you got. So if that starts to move, I know I got to make a change, but it's going pretty well. Okay, and then power out. Rudder in the opposite direction, power back in. Look how we're staying at 46. 46 is nailed. Right, and that's what we're looking for in a commercial ride. Well, and a PPL ride as well. 45-degree bank angle. We're going to reduce our power, add our rudder, and we're rolling back on those roads. Cruise attitude back to maintain. We're 4,600 feet. That's would be a commercial standard is how we would do that, and it just shows a level of precision that you know how to manipulate this airplane. Well, yeah, precisely. Basically, you can manage speed, you can manage your direction, you can manage your altitude, and a bank angle like that. Anyways, let's go back over to Collingwood. So Collingwood should be, we'll just do another steep turn over to the left. And again, instructor-wise, I would be flying on this side. So as an instructor, you get very, very good at the attitudes outside because you kind of really can't see those instruments anymore. Even though they're all in the corner of your eye, they're quite hard to see actually as an instructor. So you get, I think you become a much better pilot once you become an instructor. Everything gets so much easier when you teach anything, right? So same idea. Anyways, we're on the way to Collingwood. Just gonna fix my trim here a little bit. The other thing I saw a lot in real life is people would start to fly with trim once they figured out what it was. So if the nose is like this, they'd start to nose down. Don't do that. Fly the airplane, nose it down, right? Hold the pressure that's required to hold this nose down, and then trim off the pressure. That's what trim is there. Trim is not there to fly with. Trim is there to relieve pressure from you. And you don't know how much pressure to relieve if you're just going to trim to fly. What else can we do? We'll do a bit of, well, we're actually too close for that, but I guess we'll just kind of nicely just chill, and we'll go over to Collingwood. Collingwood, from memory, is about 750 above ground, so we'll make the circuit at 1750 area, and it's left-hand patterns. Should be coming up over there soon. Hope you guys enjoyed this little departure from our usual airliner kind of stuff. I know a lot of people fly the airliners. I actually think a lot of simmers, if they were doing this, it would actually be more difficult for them to fly precisely on visual references and kind of do this kind of flying. There's no autopilot. Well, there's an autopilot, but we never use it in real world. It was usually disabled for us in real life. But if you had someone kind of shared cockpit or watching you stream your screen and have you do precision turns, like steep turns and proper stall stuff, I think a lot of people would actually struggle with that. You'd be surprised how much someone struggles with holding speed, heading, altitude if they're not trained. It's quite an interesting watch. And if they're holding speed, heading, altitude well, give them a turn, give them a climb, give them an ATC call, and it all goes to MS. But this is all basics. These are all the basics that you train at the very beginning, and hopefully you hold them with you for the rest of your career. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to set the autopilot for a second, as I'm going to go get some water. So we'll go heading mode. Zoom in here. Autopilot, heading mode, and alt hold. So you do that. We got a left and right fuel low. That's fine. We still got just under about 7 gallons per tank. That's 14 gallons. 14 gallons is a quarter of a tank, so we still got about an hour of fuel. And Collingwood's coming up pretty quickly, actually. Alright, I'm gonna get some water. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Hey, welcome, Five Snipes. Welcome. We're just doing a typical kind of look at a few lessons of flight training. So I've just been sitting here and talking my viewers' ears off, basically, on how we train real-world pilots and what to expect in your first few lessons. I kind of combined a bunch of lessons into one. And now we're just going over to Collingwood, which is a short little hop from where we started from. So there's the city. And the airport's right there. That's pretty bang on for memory, right? I didn't use any navigation. I just pointed myself kind of roughly to this portion of the shore. And that usually gets you to Collingwood. Nothing wrong with some VFR, nothing at all. Let's get rid of that, the autopilot there. And we're going to start descending. So if you guys remember for our descent training we just did, it's power attitude trim. So mixture goes full rich. And we're going to reduce our power. Now, how much power to reduce is depending on how fast you need to descend. So, we're going to go down to 2,200 feet for the turnaround procedure. You would have got weather in Collingwood. I'm assuming they're still using the 30s because we used the 30s in Brampton, so it's probably the same wind out here. It's not that far away. And what we need to do is we need to, I'm going to pause here. The only two ways in a Canada that's recommended to join in an uncontrolled airport is a mid-left downwind or straight in downwind. We don't really do that dogleg downwind stuff that the States does. So the problem is I'm landing on this runway going this way. Right? I think it's runway 30 actually. We're landing on this way. Well, if I can only land, or I can only join the circuit mid-left or straight in, I'd have to go over there and then fly this way, and now it's a left-hand traffic pattern. But mid-left is actually a bit more efficient, and we can do what's known as the turnaround procedure, or as the teardrop procedure. Same thing, different name. But basically, I'm going to fly overhead the circuit at 500 feet. So this circuit altitude is 1,700. So I'm going to fly at 17, 18, 19, 21, 2,200 feet. That's where I'm descending to currently. I'm going to pass over this airport 500 above the circuit. And I'm going to do either a left or right turn, probably a right turn, and come all the way back around in a descending turn. I'm going to go down to 1,700 feet and then join mid-left downwind. So that's what I'm going to do for our little procedure. I can actually draw it for you guys if you want to see. That'll probably make more sense for you. You guys can see here. Let's see if I can bring Collingwood. I just need a taxi diagram would be fine. We put it on That one you can see as well. So we're coming from, yeah, that's fine. We're coming from this way. The only two things, or only two ways that we can join, again, this is Canada, is mid-left, downwind, or I'll make it yellow, or maybe not yellow, make it purple, or straight and downwind. So you have to get, I have to get myself from here to either this part, or this area. So I can either fly that way, far away, and come back and do a straight in, downwind, or I can fly overhead the airport, as I'm going to do now. So I'll make this in red. 2,200 feet. Overhead the airport. Take a bit of a turn off, do a nice big kind of 180 turn, descending to circuit altitude, which is 1,700 feet. In that turn, and now I'm in a mid-left downwind, right? And I can go ahead and land. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fly over to the airport at 500 above the circuit altitude, which is 22, and then I'm going to do a nice big ginormous turn, a descending turn, come all the way around, and join the mid-left downwind. And that's a perfectly legal. It's actually the recommended way to join the circuit at an uncontrolled field. Matt says 280 at 7. Perfect, thanks. Yeah, I just assumed we took off at a Brampton, which is like a 30-minute flight. So if it's all in real world, it's all the same kind of weather you're gonna get. It'll be good enough for sim purpose. But thank you for that. So we're just gonna descend on down to 2,200 feet. Have another 1,000 foot to go or so. 1,200 feet to go. If I wanted to descend faster, I can put in a slip. So the wind's from the left-hand side. I can go ahead and put in right rudder, left aileron into the wind. And we can descend much steeper. Notice we're getting over 2,000 feet per minute right now. Right? And the airspeed's not going up into the yellows. It's kind of staying in the greens there. It's not as good as... Actually, it slips better in real life than it does in the sim. But anyways, that's called a forward slip. I'm going to come a bit more to the left here. That way I can kind of cut the airport more in half. Yeah, I did turn off the live weather. But thanks for that. I appreciate the effort. Okay, we're coming down to 2,200 feet. And in real life, you'd be able to stick your kind of head to the window and see an airport or a runway or something below you. And we're going to not go under that altitude because there's other airplanes in the circuit. So you don't want to go too low and get in their circuit altitude. But if I go outside, we're passing overhead the field. I'm going to do one nice big right-hand turn when I get a bit further away. There'll be one nice descending right-hand turn. So I would have said Collingwood air traffic, Bravo Fox Alpha, 2,200 feet, commencing turnaround procedure, join mid-left downwind, runway 31. It'd be a big call, but that's what that would kind of do. So let's start our descending right-hand turn. No more than 30 degrees down here, guys, on the bank angle. Bank angle, bank angle. Then we're going to let the airplane descend, and we're going to nicely turn as well. Again, it's kind of hard to do in real life or in the sim because you can't really see where you're going all that much. You can move your head, but there's the runway just in front of us, and we're going to cut it right in half, right at the circuit altitude. So we're still descending on down to 1,700 feet. So then I would say Collingwood air traffic, Bravo Fox Alpha, overhead the field, 1,700, joining mid-left downwind, 3-1. Right, and I'm going right back to that cruise attitude for level flight. It all comes back together. Now, obviously, the circuit we haven't talked about, and in a first lesson, the student usually has no idea what a circuit is. But again, I'm going further in this stream than I would in real life. In real life, we would have stopped at attitudes and movements, left it there. I do actually have VR. I just don't use it for flight sim, Mathis. I do have VR, though. I use it all the time for DCS. Anytime I play DCS, I need VR. So we would check anybody joining straight in. We would check anybody in downwind, anybody later in downwind, and we would turn downwind. And we're going to say Collingwood air traffic, Bravo, or Collingwood traffic, Bravo Foxtrot Alpha, turning left downwind 31. I like to add left in there. You don't really have to because it is a left traffic pattern anyways, so everyone should be going left, but a little bit more to parallel. All right, now once we get to about 45 degrees, actually let's do our downwind checks real quick. It would be temperature pressure in the green, mags on both, masters on, lights whatever we needed to be on, mixtures full rich, or fuel's on both. The fuel shut off obviously is pushed in. Pressure in the brakes, and we're good to go. Notice we're nicely maintaining 1,700 feet per minute, or 1,700 feet up on the altitude gauge. That's all because I'm doing cruise attitude. And I'll go lower my power, flat 10. So I'll pause here. I kind of took a bit long, and I've already started my turn, but once we're about 45 degrees off from that runway, this is more than like, right now this is more like 50-60 degrees off, but once you're about 45 degrees off, I'm going to reduce my power, and as long as I'm below 110 knots, I'm going to add my flaps to 10. I'm going to start my turn left. The reason I reduce my power first is if you add flap with your power and cruise power, your nose is going to shoot straight up. So I reduce power and add flap at the same time, and they kind of cancel out each other. It's a nice little trick. And then I'm going to turn left, which is going to start my base leg. So we're going to start turning left. It's a descending left turn, and we're going to hold. We're going to do our base leg here. So I'd say Collingwood traffic, Bravo Fox Alpha, turning base 31. Now notice now we're in the white arc. This white arc and the speed here, this is, you can go flaps full anywhere in this arc. For flap 10, you have to be below 110, but after that, anywhere in this arc, you have to be in the arc for any other flap you want. So now we're basically on a base leg. And you can take a look at the runway, kind of. You can't really see it all that well, but we're gonna go flap 20 as we're in the white arc. And I can't see my runway at all, so I'm just going to start a left turn and hope for the best in the sim. And, oh, there it is. I just see in the corner of my left eye there. Obviously, in real life, you have your head that can move. So we're looking a little high. I'm going to reduce my power a little bit. And it's not really the greatest of base turns. It would have been, this is kind of a base we don't like to teach. We like to teach them more at 90-degree angles and turning. But, again, it's kind of hard to do in the sim where I can't move my head and all that kind of stuff. We're going to go flap full. And we're flaps full. We're looking for 60 knots on final. This is a normal landing, so 60 knots. The wind is very calm, so 60 is more than fine. We're getting a little slow, so I'm going to add a little bit of power and push the nose down a wee bit. All right, I need some trim nose down as I'm having to hold it. There we go. So let me pause here. There's 6 things to landing a 172, or actually any airplane, to be honest with you. Before we get close to the runway, it's airspeed, lineup, glide path. So airspeed, you're going to keep going through these as you're flying. We're a little lower than 60. I got to fix that. Lineup, it's okay. We're slightly to the right of the runway. If I go out here, you can see we're slightly to the right of the runway. Just ever so slightly. We're going to bring ourselves left. Glide path, we're about 500 a minute or so, and we're kind of, if I kept this descent going and I didn't flare or anything, I'd probably smash right about here. And this is a long runway, so that's more than fine. So the glide path is actually looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do is nose down a wee bit, add a little bit of power, and come to the left. So you're going to constantly go through that. Airspeed, lineup, glide path. Airspeed, lineup, glide path. Airspeed, lineup, glide path. All the time until you get close enough to the runway where the last 3 are take precedence. Once the runway is made, which means you can glide to that runway, even if your engine failed. Right now, if my engine failed, I ain't making it. But once you're at the point where, and it's a judgment call, but once you're at the point where, yes, this runway is made, even if my engine failed, I can make it, you're going to go to the next 3 steps, which is power idle, and don't just chop it, nicely smooth idle. Your eyes are going to go, instead of staring at this aiming point, which is where I'm currently descending to, I'm staring here, and I'm adjusting my pitch and my descent path to hit here. Power idle, eyes go way to the end of the runway, not in the air, not over there, not over here, way to the end. And then you're going to add back pressure. So airspeed, lineup, glide path. Airspeed, lineup, glide path. Runway is made. Power idle, eyes to the end, and flare, or nose up, whatever you want to call it. They call it transition, the 172. I don't care. I call it a flare. So That's what we're going to do. We're going to go a little bit left, a little bit of power, a little bit of nose down, get back to 60 or close enough. Okay, I'll tell you when the runway is made, guys. So line up airspeed glide path, line up airspeed glide path. Okay, runway's made now, so let's go power idle. Look all the way to the end of the runway, start nosing up, and we're just going to hold this. And that's it. A little bit flat. I could have probably nosed up a little bit more. That's okay. The airplane's gonna survive. And that's it. That would be an intense first lesson because we covered a lot of things. But in real world, we would have did attitudes and movements, and then I would have gave you a teaser trailer, maybe with some climbs and some stuff, and we would have went back and landed. Probably about an hour in the air, maybe something like that. Anyways, I'm going to stop on this runway here, as I don't feel like taxiing all the way back. I don't taxi in Sims. I don't know if you've noticed from my other streams. I just can't be bothered to. But we're going to stop right here. I'll throw the parking brake on, which is very bad to the airplane. Don't do that in real life. And so to shut it off, we're going to idle at 1,000. We always idle at 1,000 when we're completely stopped. All right. Avionics can get turned off. Mixture full cut off, which cuts the fuel. All these lights can get turned off. Mags go to off. Master goes off. And the fuel to one side, so to prevent sloshing with any bumps and stuff. Oh, I should have brought the flaps up too. That would have been part of the after landing stuff. There you go. We'll bring those up. Jet Kid, sorry, Mr. Comments here. Evening, I just turned in. What do we have going on today in the world of GA? Pattern work? Oh yeah, pitch for speed, power for altitude. Exactly. Yeah, we're doing some. I used to be an instructor a long time ago, or 2 years ago, before I got to the airline. So I'm kind of going back into my instructor roots and showing. We did attitudes and movements, we did some climbs and ascents, we did a little bit of turns, and then we did a little bit of pattern stuff. So kind of a big lesson with a run up and all that kind of stuff at the beginning as well. We're just going to get to the end of the stream here, but I thank you everybody who's joined and pressed the like button. If you're on the vertical stream, if you can double tap the screen, that'll press a like. And before we go again, guys, as well, in the description, you got discount codes for Contrail or ProDesk Sim. Be sure to go stop by them if you want to buy anything from there. Use my code, and that helps me, and it helps you save some money. So I really appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you guys can learn something from this and take it, or maybe it kind of gives you the ability to go fly GA a little bit more, or makes you want to go fly it. And anyways, that's it for me. We'll see you guys later.